Hello and welcome to my thought on this absolutely beautiful Wednesday. I was thinking about how we love ritual and how we think that ritual has so much meaning. And because of the way I think, I find that uh, crazy things like elaborate weddings, uh, elaborate funerals are a waste of money and a waste of time. Uh, but sometimes they do have value, and people say that if you do, I always have asked, um, I've asked gay men why on earth they want to get married, and they say because it's saying in public, um, proclaiming in public your devotion. And I've always said, well, if you're really devoted to someone, you're going to stay, and I wouldn't want to be locked into a relationship because of a piece of paper, because of a piece of paper. So I am not a big advocate of marriage, um, mainly because I've had two failed ones. There are many, many marriages that work out just beautifully, and I'm thrilled for them. But I've often questioned if it's necessary to have that piece of paper and have that ceremony. However, as I say that, I recall my own wedding. And I was very liberal when I was engaged. I was very casual and I was very non pretentious. And I found that pretentious things were upsetting and artificial and shallow, and I wanted none of it. However, when I became engaged, the whole family, this is in Toledo, Ohio, the whole family congregated together to make this the ceremony and the ritual that I had thought was unnecessary. And I had the parties and I had the showers and my mother and I went trousseau shopping, which I thought was utterly ridiculous. And I will never forget my mother uh, was very poor when she got married, and I believe it was my father who paid for the wedding. And I will never forget how excited and thrilled my mama was when we picked beautiful linens and beautiful silver and beautiful china and pottery for this marriage that I was about to have. And um, and I remember how thrilled she was, and I gave it no credence at all. I thought it was foolish. And then we went through the ritual of the dress. And I got as a matter of fact, I still remember the name of the designer. It was Susie Perrette. And I had a beautiful dress. And the hairdresser worked at a great deal of time to make me into a beautiful bride. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy. And he did a gorgeous job. He was the hairdresser uh, that had, he was wonderful. And I think it was my mother's hairdresser. I think it was David that made me very elaborate. I had a chignon and I had a veil, and I was the center of attention. I was the center of attention for all the parties. I was the center of attention when I, we got to the temple, and my mother and my bridesmaids all gathered together to get me dressed and get me looking ethereal and very beautiful. And I had a very special bouquet that I had designed that was very simple and very elegant because I was into simple elegance at the time. And my bridesmaids were all in white, just like I was, with green, white lace with green underskirts, so that we looked very floral. And I had an ivory gown with a long train that trailed behind me. And my father uh, took me down the aisle. My husband looked at me and barely recognized me because everybody had worked so hard to get me all made up and all gorgeous. And he took me in his arms, as he was expected to do in front of the congregation. And he said to me, I have never seen you look so beautiful. And I am ashamed to say that of all the things he said to me, especially when I think of what he said to me after, I was absolutely thrilled. I had never been called beautiful before. I had never been such a center of attention. I had never been the event, but that day I was the event. And it was beautiful. And when we went on our honeymoon and I was plunged into reality, and I found myself scrubbing toilets and cleaning floors and not being able to get a job, and my husband was angry and abusive, and I fortunately 2 years of living hell, and I got out of that relationship. And I was thinking to myself, what good was that wedding? What good? And then I thought, when life kicks you in the face, when things are not right, and it feels like no matter what you do, you're stumbling and you're falling. It feels that way very often with the lockdown with this coronavirus, and you feel like nothing you do is worth it, and nothing you do is going to make a difference anywhere. It's very lovely to remember that there was a time and there was a moment when you were the star and you were beautiful. And thank you so much for joining me for my thought.